gonna call them bunch of mania. Because I'm saying it meant to that they will keep stealing from the coffers, from the riches of the nation. You understand? So now, one of the things I want to talk about. Although everyone believes Buhari was not a good president, and the money were embezzled, yes, out of these future leaders and aspiring future presidential candidates, I think it's still the same past president. Political expediency. In a civilized society, visiting a president will be akin to political society. If they are aspiring future leaders are going to political expediency, why should we as voters believe those politicians will be different from Buhari? The question is this: Nigerians do not understand the full urgency of their collective life. Have you noticed the extremely high cost of ordinary food items lately? How most people in Nigeria survive? To me, it's still a mystery. Meanwhile, their government do not, in any way, even the recent 70,000 increment of minimum wage is still a problem to implement. Not knowing that increasing the minimum wage will push on the effect of high cost of living. You understand? So this is an obvious achievement that the government is detached from their people. How do we survive with 100,000 naira monthly? And the workers expected to supplement their income by engaging in crime? If they increase the minimum wage, it will solve economic growth. Because with more money in our pocket, they will spend more on the economy, which will vitalize the economy by trickling down to the lowest people.
Thank you for that's why I just spoke here listening. I just want professors don't even end a million. People who earn 7,000 minimum wage, senators, some of them that got into elections, that got into what positions through violence. And any 21 million running. I think what they should do is just cut the money of the senators. Cut it. If senators have made less than $1 million for the entire cost, people that only use money to buy elections will never be in that position. We have made governmental position too juicy in this country. It should be for service. This crop of politicians, if you tell them that they're not going to earn anything for working in the Senate, are they going to do the job? No. Let's make money leadership unattractive. Let's make it about for people that truly want to serve. In fact, let's convert it. Our Senate like a House of Lords, where it is only people that have served, that done well for the country. That sometimes people get nominated to these positions, and they get nominated by the people. And they should not be paid anything. It should be a service. As we cut down this cost of government, then a lot can be done. Hello. We are doing so many things. We are also partnering. There's a brother in pharmaceutical. Partner team in the north. He's got a new foundation out now. Please support him as much as possible. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, Mr. Rufai.
Where you calling from?
My name is Emmanuel. I'm calling from Sulu.
Good to have you.
Yeah, sir. Mr. Rufai, this government has made people lost entirely. I could remember when we were campaigning. We were thinking the man was going to come back. We were thinking he was sincere. But honestly, the way the country is now, everyone is leaving the country. I doubt if in the good tenure, the skillful people will sleep in this country. Maybe we should just do this retire. That's just a contribution to my youth.
We can't live our country. But you know, things are so bad now that even to Japan is a problem. When you look at the cost of Japan, you're paying over 20 million. You probably look at it twice and say, what's the need to do it? because of the amount of money. So the currency is at a bad stage. Everything is an all-time low. Okay, please call your number now.
Okay, 081
Yeah.
4463 917917.
Okay, thank you. So when you look at it, we need to fix leadership. And we cannot fix leadership by having leaders. Are emotionally bankrupt. I'm emotionally poor. What's the name? Where you calling from? I remember you. How far with your accommodation issues? Oh yeah, give your number again. Let's see if people might help you. Yeah.
76.
Yeah.
13.
Yeah.
13. Double 8.
Yeah.
Double 95.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. So that's it. As a nation, what matters a great deal. What we hope to achieve matters a great deal. What is standing in our way mostly is a question of leadership. The question is, who are the people leading us? Are they good people? Or are they people that are making our conditions worse off? So that's the constant question we face every time. We'll take more calls. Hello, how are you? Hello? We'll take more calls this Sunday. But we also have an excerpt coming up soon. Something we're going to be playing. Again. It was a conference we had like 2 years ago. Led by Dr. Kwazu. Where we talked about Nigeria and what we can do for the upliftment of this nation. So I'm going to play that conference again to be able to motivate a lot of people that feel down and that feel outdone by the situation of things in Nigeria. We'll continue to preach hope. We'll continue to preach possibility. We'll continue to encourage our leaders to do what is right. And we'll continue to engage them. And engage their faculties. To ensure that they do what is best in the interest of the people. Also, the people to play a role. You can't complain about the leaders and you do worse than them if you have position for leadership. You as a person, as an individual, you should also be careful. What are you also doing? What are you also giving? What capacity do you also have as an individual? What are you also doing for your nation? There are numerous challenges in Nigeria. The leaders have a problem. But also the people too have got to rise up. And the people that support all these leaders, they've also got to rise up and stop supporting all the bad ways of these our leaders. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Great to have you. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm from Taraba State.
Good to have you. Talk to me, my brother.
Yes, seriously, I want to appreciate you for this program, and seriously, I want to tell you that we the young ones, we are happy to see you. In fact, whenever I am watching TV, it's like I should not do see any program again. Because you are somebody that is standing for the truth. You are someone that is fearless. I want to say kudos to you.
God be praised.
Yeah, glory to God. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you. We need to also open the mindset of the young people. See, as a young person, if you collect money from a corrupt leader, you are part of the problem. For every 1 naira he gives you, he will steal 100 billion from you. And he will use you to perpetrate his evil. Isn't it time for you to shun the corruption and ensure that you do things right? For every one naira he gives you, he'll collect 100 from you. Hello. For every one naira he gives you, he'll collect 100 billion. He'll steal from you. He'll steal the capacity of the nation to be able to develop. So truth has to be said. You need to be able to do what is right. A lot of people are joining our live from TikTok. My brother, Tokumbo Ogubi, has joined us live. Bless you so much, my brother. I love you so much. We've got a lot of people joining up our live. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, sir.
Great to have you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ogun State.
From where in Ogun State are you calling from? Lambe. Great to have you. Talk to me.
I'm very hungry, please.
You are hungry?
Yes, you know that I'm not doing anything. I'm teaching in nursery school. They just pay me 15,000.
You are teaching in... Why are you teaching in nursery school and they're paying you how much a month?
16,000.
16,000 and you're a university graduate?
No, it's okay.
HSC? Okay, and you earn 15,000 a month.
Yes, sir.
And how are you surviving? Very difficult for you to survive, right?
Yes, sir. I'm very hungry.
You have a child there, right? Okay, please call out your phone number. Let's see if people can help you. 15,000 naira a month and you're a teacher. Wow. Call out your phone number, please. Just call it out. Yeah? Please call it properly so that people can hear you and help you. You have to speak up. Yes. Yeah. Call it properly so that people can help you. And the world watch you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. 35. Okay. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
It is well. Maybe people will reach out to you, please. Yeah? It is well with you and your baby. Very sad. But I think that people will be able to pick up the number, so share it across the group. 15,000. Now that's what we're saying. People are earning 15,000 a month and she's got a baby. Well, that money even buy diapers for the baby, I doubt. That's the country we live in. That's the life, that's the hopelessness people are facing. Hello? Hello? Oh. Please speak up louder. We've cut the call already, so we couldn't get you. Please reach out to that lady with a toddler. 15,000 cannot even do anything for a toddler. What if the toddler gets sick? That's the kind of life we're living. Hello? Great to have you. What's your name?
My name is Dominic. I'm calling from Lagos.
Dominic, talk to me.
Alright, what I was just going to say is because sometimes young people too contribute to the problem.
Yes.
For instance, for me, I was laid off because I refused to join the certain politician here in Lagos who mandated someone to carry out an illicit activity. Then, because some of other consciences, they decided that we're not going to carry out these jobs, we're laid off jobs, and then everybody tends to get a video, especially the salary job and all that. You will ensure that it's followed through to make sure we suffer. So those are all the characteristics that the young ones also need to stand it together and insist that the right thing must be done. So honestly, God is here for us. Thank you for the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Keep it down. That's about we can take. We'll play that series where we talked about Nigerian development. My friends, you go this week, God bless you, open doors for you, it will make everything better for you in your life. And most importantly, open the eyes of our leaders to do right and help our nation to grow and continue to prosper. We advise leaders out there, please do not have emotional poverty. Please, it destroys the nation. When you're poor emotionally, you don't think of others, it's only about yourself. Then it destroys the prospect of the nation. God bless you. We're still going to be reaching out as much as possible. So we're planning another debate program for secondary school students in around Ogun states, and on the 28th of September at the same library in Topolu, we're planning something where we'll be helping secondary school students as they debate about topical issues in society. I will give them worthy prizes. So this is part of so many things we're going to foster that conversation. And we have a lot more things we're planning. Coming up promises to be wonderful and be great. It's going to be a great time for all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Many more outlets are joining us. TikTok has joined us. VOP joined us. Many more outlets too will be joining us equally to be able to amplify this message of grace to many more people. As well, thank you guys so much. God bless you. God will continue to uphold you and will make everything better in your life. Bless you so much.
Fulfill purpose, to literally be all God has called us to be. And we really can't do all of that if we, to an extent, remain complacent. Complacent meaning that we're, to an extent, satisfied with the status quo, we're comfortable with where we are, concerned about how we can just live. We really can't do all of that if we, to an extent, remain complacent. Complacent meaning that we're, to an extent, satisfied with the status quo, we're comfortable with where we are. We're just concerned about how we can just live, eat, take care of our loved ones, and nothing more, right? I really believe that we're called to be more than that. So again, we move straight to what purpose is, right? We move straight to what purpose is. Purpose is the reason why something to an extent exists, right? The reason why something exists. And for us as human beings, the reason why we're on earth. I've always grown up with this principle or with this mantra, you live not for yourself alone, but for others. And then when, to an extent, you have that mantra at the back of your mind, you're knowing that, to an extent, you literally should show love to others. Then I move straight to what mission is. So mission, to an extent, is an important assignment given to you, right? It's either it has begun or it's in process. And as individuals, I always emphasize on the fact that you should see your mission in life as something created, designed, and given to you by God. It's literally beyond you. So looking at it, the audacity of mission and purpose, there's one thing that to an extent helps and then guides us towards achieving our best life, and then that's vision. I also refer to some of the words that were always lingering in my head growing up, and then I remembered growing up, and then I have literally the definition of vision at the back of my mind, right? What is vision? Vision is a mental picture of a preferred future. So you might not be literally where you are, you might not be where you want to be, but you literally have a picture of what your tomorrow would look like. And so your joy, your happiness is literally dependent on the fact that you know that there are better days ahead. I wish I could share my slide. I don't know, Amaka, if you're able to get the slides. I think I sent it to your WhatsApp.
I am trying to sort it out. My apologies. Yes, I would get it to you shortly.
Okay, great. So there is literally a Venn diagram. I hope before the end of this session, I'm able to still share it again. So there is a Venn diagram that describes how you're able to figure out your purpose. It's a mix of passion, it's a mix of mission, it's a mix of your profession, and then also a mix of your vocation. So it's you literally sitting down to analyze what are you passionate about, what is your mission. So to an extent, what opportunity do you have in terms of your profession? So for instance, I'm really excited at the fact that Rufai is on this call. So he's literally leveraging his profession to fulfill the assignment that God has for him. And to an extent, it's making people ask themselves genuine questions, right? You could also find purpose from, are you being paid from either your profession or your vocation? Because in as much as you want to impact lives, I'm on page 6. So in as much as you want to impact lives, you still have to find ways in which it's going to be sustainable, right? How are you going to fund it? So your profession and your vocation could fund your purpose. You could also look at what you're passionate about and then what your mission is. I remember when I was still in the university, and I knew that just a university education wasn't going to give the future that I needed. Or so then what I had to do was to then volunteer with organizations. I volunteered with the Future Awards Africa. I volunteered with ISEC. I volunteered with a couple of organizations. And the truth is, the relationships I had built in all these organizations paved more ways for me when I left the university. So you necessarily don't have to be paid for something, but as long as you have passion in it for it, and then you have a mission, and then you have a vision, you love it, you are great at it, you are great at volunteering, and then the world also needs you to serve effortlessly. So an extent, when you align all of these different verticals, you'll be able to find your purpose. So I expect that a lot of us can grab this and then literally take pen and paper to write all of this down. So I love Grant Cardone. I love reading his books. I love some of his principles on the 10X rule, where you're able to think exponentially. And then I came across this paragraph in his book: stop thinking about your basic needs and start aiming for abundance in all areas of your life. And then reading the 10X book, he also itemized his different goals. I know a lot of us are like, we have goals that we're writing down, but when I read some of his goals was, I'm going to have a house by the beach side. I'm going to be a wonderful wife, a husband to my wife. I'm going to be a great dad to my children. I am a great dad to my children. I am a great husband to my wife. My children are going to have the best friends. And so just setting very, very big, hairy, audacious goals. And when you keep looking at these goals, it to an extent then helps you be all God has called you to be. So the next is somewhere in the scripture that says, making the very most of your time on earth, recognizing and taking advantage of every opportunity and using it, the next slide, and using it with wisdom and diligence because the days are filled with evil. So just emphasize on making the best use of every opportunity given to you to serve, to work, and all of that. So I'll go to the next one, which is never let a good crisis go to waste. This was one of Winston Churchill's quotes some time ago. And then interpreting it, the next slide. So interpreting it in this current age is, irrespective of what has happened to you, don't play the victim mentality and blame some other person for your problem. Like you literally need to maximize everything that has happened to you, right? So for instance, you're working in an organization and then you're asked that your services are no longer needed. It's nobody's fault. You literally have to sit down and know what went wrong, forgive if need be, and then forgiveness to an extent then opens doors for more opportunities. And irrespective of what happened, you lost a loved one, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? You're down on cash. Think of innovative ways to make money. Next slide.
Okay.
So when we're looking at the powerful principles for impacting your generation and fulfilling destiny, there are different verticals. We're looking at your health, being very healthy. You're looking at wealth, being able to sustain your lifestyle. And then you're looking at spirituality. I'm not a proponent of go to church, go to mass, but be spiritual. Be spiritual meaning that you are serving God in truth and in spirit. You have your values and your principles guiding you. You give selflessly, you meditate and you pray, and you are grateful, irrespective of anything that has happened to you. The mere fact that you're alive is enough to be grateful for. And then when it comes to wealth, you look at education. Are you getting the necessary education that will give you a competitive advantage in this competitive world? Are you learning the skills of the future? The skills of the future are artificial intelligence, data science, programming, software dev, design, different skills that will make you relevant now and in the future. Are you networking, both physically and then virtually? LinkedIn is a very, very powerful tool for us to maximize. And then I'll just move straight to the health aspect. Exercise is key. I'm very, very, very inspired by, I hope Rufai will have an opportunity to share with us about the jumping jacks. It's very important for us to eat healthy, for us to drink a lot of water, for us to have our checkups. Like a lot of people will just slump and die for that. And that's to an extent what probably we're not taking note of some internal health challenges, and that's probably because we don't do a lot of checkups and all of that. And then back to wealth, I think relationships is critical to we being able to fulfill mission, because we have to literally be very intentional about building relationships. I mean, the next slide. So we're spiritual beings, right? So irrespective of what's happening in the physical, we should also consider the fact that we're spiritual beings. And then we can maximize our potential when we begin to understand ourselves. What is your routines daily? Do you wake up in the morning and just press your phone? Or do you wake up in the morning and just thank God for the gift of life and then plan your day? So you just have to be very intentional about it. The next slide is you're a child of God on a mission to change the world. So you were not born by mistake. You were born to impact lives. You are not born for you to eat rice in the morning and by the night. No, you are born to, you're a child of God on a mission to change the world. And you don't have to wait till you're able to change Nigeria, Africa, and whatever. Start from your immediate community. Start from being there for your friends and your loved one. The next slide is joy comes from an internal state of being. The ultimate source of happiness is within us. Meaning that your joy cannot come from the fact that you have a beautiful relationship, you have a great job. All of those are add-ons, right? Joy comes from an internal state of being. And the ultimate source of happiness is within us. If you say you're happy, you're happy. If you say you're sad, you're going to be sad. So depending on what you want your mindset to phantom, you would. And I learned this a lot from Chude Jidonwa, also reading a lot of books from Dalai Lama and the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The next slide, blaming someone or something else may extend. The next one. So blaming someone or something else only extends how long you will be a victim or a slave. That's by Grant Cardone. Don't blame anyone for anything that has happened to you. Don't blame your parents for not giving birth to you in America. Don't blame anyone, because the longer you blame people for your current situation, the longer you continue to be a victim. And then that's literally not great for someone who has the audacity of mission and purpose. So the next slide is we're radiance of God's glory on the earth. Right? We are, our bodies are the temple of God, right? Keep it holy, right? God has called you to take over territories for him. And you can't do that if you're not empowered. So if you have an idea in your head, birth it. If you have an answer to a problem, talk about it. If you have answers to difficult questions, talk about it, right? You are the salt of the earth, so add sweetness, and then you're also the light of the world. I could remember some time ago, I was working in an organization, and then my employer were in a meeting, and then my employer said, "No, yeah, you're the light of this company." And I'm like, I was like, no, not because you are fair, you are the light. Even till today, I don't know what he's talking about, but I just go back to the fact that the Bible said, the word of God said, we're the light to the world. So in your individual offices or shops or wherever, you have to be the light, meaning that you have to literally exude grace. And then you only exude grace through your intentional actions. So what is the empowered you? The empowered you, the next slide. So an empowered you is you living your best life, you being able to set goals, do not overspend, save for the future, save for your children. If not, your children will complain the complaint that you are complaining right now. Have multiple streams of income, be faithful, judicious at your full time, but at the same time, still think of how you can add value and people would pay you for it. Be a learning machine, read and educate yourself, avoid toxic relationships, be intentional about your relationships. Success is your responsibility, it's nobody's responsibility, because you literally have to have a mindset that your existence and your survival is based on how you're intentional about your success. You have to live for others, you have to believe in yourself, watch and pray, set audacious goals. 10x what seems impossible to others. It drives you to be focused. The next slide says, okay, after all of this, what is your resolve? I expect that everyone goes back to the drawing board and set goals for themselves, reach goals that seems impossible to others, become a learning machine, because you can't give what you don't have. So you have to constantly keep learning and developing yourself. The next slide is your resolve. So reach goals that seem impossible.
My laptop, finally gone through. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay. So find joy in your journey. Joy. Like, remember what I said earlier, that irrespective of anything that is happening, the fact that you are alive should just make you joyful. Do not be complacent. Do not be satisfied with the fact that you have a great job and then you think that's all that God has told you to do. There is more. All of us on this course, we're on a mission to take over territories, right? And then we do that by building character, staying disciplined, and then being consistent at whatsoever our mind tells us to do. So thank you very much. These are my contact details. I'm very, very much available to help if you need clarity post this session. This number is available just on WhatsApp. And then my campsite bio has some of the books I've written on life principles, on tech skills of the future, and a lot of other things. So I'll give some time for the other speakers to bless us. And then thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much, Noye. Now, don't be too in a hurry to leave. We have some time for reactions. So if anybody has, say, any questions to ask Noye or any contribution to make as well, can I ask that you do that in this time? Do you have any questions, contributions, or was there a particular thing that resonated with you that Noye said that you would like to also probably elaborate on? If we don't have, we could move on to, but I'll just give a few minutes. I'm just keeping an eye as well on the chat section to make sure that I'm reeling everything in. Okay, looks like we're going to go on to the next speaker. Hi, Dele. Is it possible to put your video on?
Yeah, hi. Can you see me?
Yes, we can. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay, and you?
I'm very well, thank you. Welcome to Empowering Series. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Good stuff. Okay, so Dele will be speaking to us about my Nigerian dream and identity. Thank you, Noye, for sharing about the audacity of purpose and the audacity of, okay, my apologies, Dele. I'm going to just stall a bit. Someone just asked a question for Noye quickly. Someone asked, Noye, can the first speaker, can you elaborate on life once, I'm not sure if I get this. Can you elaborate more on living one's life? I guess that's what that means. Living one's life for others.
Okay. So thank you so much for that question. So the sentence is live not for yourself alone, but for others. That means you are being all God has called you to be, but at the same time, you are not selfish, you are selfless, meaning that you're ready to be there for those who need you. You're ready to impact lives. You are ready to make the life of some other person better, not at your detriment. And that's why, to an extent, it's very important for you to fulfill purpose first and then be able to impact lives. Because if you want to start impacting lives, probably by giving when you don't have, both of you might probably sync together. So that's why you literally have to fulfill purpose and then live not for yourself alone, but for others.
Okay, Baba, I hope that clarified or answered your question. In the interim, I think someone wants to add something. Abam, would you like to unmute yourself and just give us your own what else stood out to you? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. Noye, thank you so much for your presentation and treading more light on achieving purpose and finding out God's path for our lives. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so in addition to what Noye has said, so in living your life for others, I mean, when we look around God's creation in the universe, nothing lives for itself. The fishes in the sea do not live for themselves. The mango tree does not live for itself. The sun and the moon do not live for themselves. Everything in creation lives for others. When you begin to live for yourself, you begin to die. It means you're no more living a selfless life, you're living a selfish life. And everything about God's creation is selfless. So, in addition to that, one of the things that would tell you if you're on the right path is, what is that thing that arrests your attention? What is that thing that when you go home, other people may pass by it, but it gives you sleepless nights? That is what God has called you to do. Is it children who are homeless? Is it the environment that is in danger or in degradation? Is it a housing problem? Is it a transportation problem? Is it a problem around humanity? Anything at all that gives you sleepless nights, that touches the chords of your heart, that ensures that you lose sleep, that you owe your creator, you would owe your creator an explanation if you do not solve the problem. The same way Nightingale, was it Florence Nightingale, addressed the issues then in World War I that bettered the nursing profession as we know it today. But most importantly, so where people get it wrong is something may be your calling, and you just jump into it. No. So there is process. Mm-hmm. So when God gives you an idea, you need to go to the back of the desert. You need to get the right skills. You need to know what is that thing. You need to get how to get prepared, to launch into that calling. So you can see that even Jesus Christ, who is our example, was first of all a carpenter before he was a savior, because in the environment where he was trained, he needed to do something to feed himself. He needed to do something to save for that ultimate call. Do you get? So you see that David was a shepherd in the back of the desert before he became king. You see that Joseph was a kitchen tender. Joseph was a food provider before he became a food provider for the whole of Egypt. And most of the times, these things, our calling happens. The Bible says that he that is faithful in little will be faithful in plenty. So you see that Joseph was always about people and hunger. Anytime his brothers were in way in the woods tending to animals, he would tell his father he needed to go feed them with food. And even though they'll beat him, he'll still go back. After that, he was sold into slavery. When he went to Potiphar's house, they still made him in charge of food, and he did his job excellently. When he went to prison, he was still in charge of food. He did his job excellently, and God promoted him to be in charge of food. So sometimes the calling is around the little things that we do, and once we do them excellently, God gets to promote us. But above all, most of the time we need skill. A lot of people jump the preparation phase and just want to land in the calling. There'll be disasters. So I think that in betting the call, process is important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abam. Thank you for the insightful contribution. I think what you said that stood out to me is the place of process. Sometimes we forget that we want to go from 0 to 100 real quickly, but life is all about purpose. When also God calls you, he gives you roots. The roots he gives you is for you to be able to stand whatever challenges that would come, to enjoy whatever success, to have the character to enjoy whatever successes that would come. So thank you for highlighting that, and thank you so much, Noye, for the very insightful presentation as well. Now, just moving on swiftly, I moved to Dele to talk to us about the Nigerian dream and identity. Incidentally, I was just reviewing the polls that you have answered, and I see the hunger. 17 of us actually want to build this dream. We want to build this sustainable and impact-driven community for posterity. So that is a good thing. We hope that we can take something from this conversation and begin to actually reflect and come back again when we're called on to begin to do things that are actionable. 2 people don't know, 2 people want to japa, so no problem. We are all good. Dele, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amaka. Thank you for inviting me to this platform. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dele Bakari, founder at Find Worker and tech entrepreneur. So I guess we'll be talking about the Nigerian identity and dream. And by the way, wonderful presentation, Noye, and pleased to meet you again on this platform. Yeah, so for me, I think today we're really going to be talking about something that has concerned me over a while now, and it has really started to I would say get to me, but it's a lot of interesting questions that I've asked myself, and I have been asked, and I've asked people also while growing up. And the questions are, when is Nigeria going to get better? When are we going to have 24/7, electricity supply? When are we going to have good governance? Nigeria has about 10.5 million, children out of school. When are we going to have a good educational system? So there are a lot of interesting questions, and these are questions that, gets me, I don't want to say angry, but I'm bothered because of the state of the nation. So I asked myself these questions, and I've been asked these questions, and I've asked people these questions as well. And I'm sure many of us on this call, we've also asked ourselves these questions. We've asked people, when is Nigeria going to get better? When I was growing up, they told us that in the year 2000, we are going to have constant electricity supply. So year 2000 came, I didn't see anything. I don't know, maybe NEPA gave you people light 24/7 in your houses. I don't know, anything is possible. Recall from history, we've also seen a lot of events from there. And later we got back to the democratic system in 1999, and that's when the ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo came to power. So, and I think at that point, that transition gave a lot of people hopes that Nigeria is actually, on the path of getting better. And I think so, or should I say I thought so at the time, because the economy was getting better and everything, all the indicators were there that showed that and proved that the nation was getting better. But right now, where are we? I mean, what's happening to Nigeria? But then I think to answer that question, we need to answer the question, who is a Nigerian? And I know that being a Nigerian doesn't mean that you only know about jollof rice. I know, because that's the popular subject we all fight over on maybe Twitter or other social media platforms. Who is, jollof rice? Who makes the best jollof rice in Africa? Or, something like that. But the question right now is, who is actually a Nigerian? And of course, a citizen of Nigeria is a Nigerian, but we need to ask ourselves that critical question, that what makes myself or yourself a Nigerian? Is it our tradition? Is it our culture? Or could it be something else, that we all don't know? But one thing I do know is that we as Nigerians are very unique. Let's forget about the geographical location called Nigeria that Lord Bugard and his wife, I think Flora Shaw, gave or named as Nigeria. But we as a people, I think we're very unique. We're very competitive. We're very smart, and we are go-getters as Nigerians. So, but the issue of identity is really a problem, I think, for Nigeria, and I believe that is one of the fundamental issues that Nigeria has: the Nigerian identity. Who is a Nigerian? I know that over time, the government has rolled out different systems to identify people in the country. At some point, we had BVN for bank verification, which is bank verification number. We had NIN. We currently have NIN that people are registering for, to also be able to identify themselves as a Nigerian. But the question is that becoming successful, or is it successful? I can't answer that question because I don't have the data yet to show that out of the 200 million people, how many and all of that. I don't have the data, but the question is that also going to be successful, or is it just another initiative that, just like BVN and the others that have been done in the past, is that also going to be another initiative that we'll just register for and that will be the end of it? So, but one thing I do know is that the Nigerian identity is tied to the progress of the country. It is tied to the progress of the country because if you want to, for example, plan proper education or healthcare, I want to believe that you need to know the number of people that you are planning, education for or healthcare for. Let's take a community in Lagos as an example. I lived in Yaba, so I'll use Yaba as a case study, for example. So in Yaba, we have a certain number of people living in that area. So if the local government, for example, wants to plan healthcare, education, and a lot of this infrastructure and everything in that area, I'm sure they will do census to know the number of people that are living in that area. And how do you determine the number of people in that area if there is no record to show that you have this number of people entering into the community and a certain number going out of the community? So there is no data showing, people coming into the community and people leaving the community, or he has moved to, another city, or should I say area in the Lagos, state itself. So everything ties back into the identity of a Nigerian. And this goes across, all the states as well, not just, the cities, but it goes across states. For example, if you leave Lagos State to go to Yobe State, how would they know that, okay, this person has left to go to this other area in the state? And I'm not sure if bosses track all these things, but Personally, that they probably just make up some numbers based on maybe the last census, and they just put it out there. Because how do you really track the number of people living in your area if you don't have that data? So everything ties back to identity, because when you know the identity, or when you know the number of people living in a certain area as a government, you'll be able to plan, accordingly for those people. You'll be able to plan healthcare, you'll be able to plan education, you'll be able to plan infrastructure and many other things. Even crime, if somebody should, let's say, for example, the local government just finished or completed a road, and somebody goes there to take something. How do you identify the person that has just taken it without even asking people around? So these are all the questions that are on my mind, and I feel like we can have that discussion today to talk about it. And I think another thing that ties into the identity is the culture of our culture as Nigerians. I know that we're very competitive, but how are we also breeding a healthy culture for ourselves internally in the country, and also externally? And I'm saying this because I have seen that a lot of people, including myself, we like to compare ourselves with others, to say, okay, me, I'm using Mercedes, you are using Toyota, or me, I went to this school, you went to that school. Yeah, these are, are normal things, but we need to start asking ourselves critical questions, not just questions that benefit us alone, because I feel like in Nigeria, the main culture is everybody seem to have a personal interest, in something. So we need to come together as a group, as a country, and have a national interest that helps us to keep the brand, keep the country, the name Nigeria forward. And it doesn't just affect people that are in Nigeria alone. It also affects people that leave Nigeria, that travel out of Nigeria. Like the popular saying goes, they would say that even when you leave Nigeria, Nigeria doesn't leave you, because at the point where you get to another country, at their immigration, when they see your green passport, you might get a different treatment from the other citizens. And we've seen details of these events online several times. So it's shocking and it is worrisome, to see some of these things, but it is what it is. It is also about how are we building our own culture. I have a friend that lives in the US, and I like the way he would say that the United States is home of the, he would say land of the free, home of the brave, or something like that. And he's not yet a citizen, but it's just the way he's so proud about the country, So, and I hope that one day we would also be able to be proud about Nigeria like that, how we're going to, beat our chest and say it loudly to everyone and in everywhere that we are Nigerians, how we'll be able to carry our green passports with pride and move across the world and be proud that we are Nigerians. So a lot of these things are very critical when it comes to building our identity as Nigerians. So I think that as Nigerians, we need to build our culture. We need to start inculcating the habit of speaking good about the country. First off, we need to also encourage more people, even intellectual people, to move into things for them. And imagine that every community or every city in Nigeria has this, system. I'm sure it will be very easy to plan, things, to plan infrastructure for the citizens of Nigeria. So I think, so when it comes to, I think I've spoken enough about the Nigerian identity, but our dreams really is to see, my personal dream is to see a Nigeria where we are not comparing each other, we're not comparing ourselves in, using intangible things like, I passed my neighbor, I'm using a better car than you, or I went to better school than you. We are, we are working as a group. My dream about Nigeria is to see a Nigeria where you carry the green passport, you travel, and they treat you with respect. My dream about Nigeria is to see somebody, or is to have a group of people in power where they actually have the interest of the citizens at heart. And that also reminds me, 2023 election is coming, and I hope everyone on this call has gotten their own PVC, so that we can encourage and vote the right person into office. So it's one thing to talk about Nigeria, and Nigeria is this, Nigeria is that on Twitter, on social media and all that. It's another thing to go out there and, use your PVC to vote who you think is competent enough to get into power. And I think that should be the discussion for 2023. It shouldn't be who deserves to be president, or from the north or from the south or from the east or from the west. It should be who is competent, to run the country. And that can only be possible if every one of us come together and we use our PVC to vote the right person into office. So speaking about the Nigerian identity, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. But I think if we can fix this fundamental problem of answering the question, who is a Nigerian, I think we would have a lot of solutions from there. For example, I just me thinking that somebody can just come from another country, get into the country, you can just walk into anywhere, create an account, or even maybe create a passport or something, so we need to really change the culture, of the Nigerian, person, or of a Nigerian, or the Nigerian institution. So we need to change all this culture. We need to, and it starts with electing the right, person into office, the competent people who can help us to change these things. And it also starts with you and I, being intentional in whatever we do, that we need to do whatever makes Nigeria, that puts Nigeria on the global map, and it makes positive impact, to the name Nigeria. So, so I think that's what I have to say today. So for me, I think, so I apologize. When I talk about Nigeria, I get so angry, I get so happy, I get so emotional, and that's because of the way things are in the country. And it's because of the fact that I love the country, just like you guys also love the country. And I think that's why we're on this call. So I've spoken a lot about the identity. I think if we can get all of these things right, Nigeria will be back to where it should be. It will be back to where it should be. Recently, they banned flights, I think, from Africa because of COVID. And I was having a discussion with a friend, and he was saying that why wouldn't they ban flights from Africa? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was saying that, can your government actually say that this is the number of people that have been vaccinated? Can you trust that data? And I was weak, and all that. So, and that's because today we hear different kinds of information. Today is this information, tomorrow is that information, who is verifying the information, and so many things. So and every problem goes back to the identity system. If you can know who and if you can know everybody, everyone in Nigeria, you have their history, you have their data, you have all of those things that you can use to, plan their life for them, give them healthcare, education, and all those things. I think Nigeria will be back to where it should be. So at this point, I think I'll just welcome questions. I'll just welcome questions, and then we can take it from there. So thank you, everyone. I hope I've been able to strike some questions even in everybody, and that's the goal of this session for me. To be able to ask ourselves, how can Nigeria be better? And when will Nigeria be better? Will it be better in our lifetime, or will it be better in another generation? But I would like to see it in our lifetime. So, and if we want to see it in our lifetime, we need to start, not just asking questions. We need to start taking critical steps in ensuring that Nigeria is better in our lifetime. And the last question that we should work on really is asking ourselves, who is a Nigerian? Who is a Nigerian? Are you a Nigerian? If somebody comes into the country today and they walk into the whatever office, I'm sure they can also become a Nigerian. So who is a Nigerian? So let's fix that problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dele, for your time. Thank you for this conversation as well. For me, I did take out some reflective questions that I would circle back to later on. That's, again, would be useful for people who are interested in entrepreneurship, because we identify problems, but the problem is not just it's not important to focus on just the problems, but how can we find sustainable solutions for these problems? Again, we welcome questions. Victoria is asking, Dele, Victoria is asking, do you think a private institution is allowed to take, the citizen census and move the identification of Nigeria forward? I'll take the question again. Do you think a private institution is allowed to take the citizen census and move the identification of a Nigerian forward? I'm not sure I understand your question, Victoria. Victoria, would you want?
I think I do.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I'm correct, I think she's asking if a private institution can collaborate with the government to solve this identity problem, like collaborate and to help the government in doing the identification for every Nigerian. So yeah, it's very possible. I think the private institution can collaborate with the government, but the government has to allow that to happen. I feel like there are a lot of companies that are also data driven. So if the government can collaborate with them, I'm sure it's going to help a long way. So why not? If I personally feel like the government alone cannot do it, they can't fix the problem. Everyone has to be part of this part of solving this problem, and that's how it is in other parts of the world. With government collaborating with the private institutions. Even in the US, they collaborate with even tech companies like Facebook, Google, to also tackle some of these issues. And for their next even ventures like the space exploration, you will see that they are partnering with Elon Musk's company to do that. So yeah, governments can collaborate with private institutions to solve the issue of identity. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your answer. Marinette is concurring. She said, you're right. African countries aren't trusted for anything. They are known for doing fake things always, and it's really affecting us, a lot of us out here. So I'm guessing Marinette is not in not in an African country. So again, the negative perception about Nigerians and Africans in general, the way we speak about ourselves also affects the way people look at us. In Igbo, they normally say, if it was essentially what it means is what you call your dog. That's what it is. Answer. Right. So it is what it is. And I know that it's so difficult because sometimes it can be so painful when we see things that are not going right. It's painful not to react. It's painful not to vent, to be angry. But it is what it is. We need to also take cognizance of that, to recognize that this is how people forge opinions about us. This is how people forge ideologies or identity about us, which sometimes are not always true. Okay, so it's just something that we also need to reflect on. How do we communicate about our identity? How can we even be ambassadors? How can we sell our country? I know it's hard, but these are things that we need to talk about. We need to change the narrative. We need to tell a different story about us. Now, nobody can do it for us. It is us, you, me, every other person who can do this. So thank you so much, Dele. I don't know if anyone has a contribution to quickly add to what Marinette and Badmus mentioned about the vaccination saga all over Nigeria. He mentions we're just good at tagging ourselves negative via social media. Again, someone concurring about the negative perception or narrative about ourselves. I was just wondering, just again, giving an opportunity for anybody to contribute or ask questions. Does anyone have any questions for Dele, or does anyone want to contribute to what Dele has said? Okay, right. I think we need to move on. Thank you so much, Dele, for your time, for the presentation that you've given. There are a lot of thought-provoking questions that, for me personally, I have collected from what you have, what you've given us this evening. The next thing is, how do we make sense of all of this? Well, really, this is why we are here today. And when we take on board all of this, things that we've observed, these questions, and then what can we do to make a difference? So thank you, Dele, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, just getting to the last speaker, I know that this has kind of extended past the time that we anticipated it to happen, but I hope that you're enjoying this session so far. Can I just ask Rufai to please take the stage? Rufai will be speaking to us about the Nigerian factor and the power of resilience. Hi, Rufai.
Thank you so much, Chiamaka. Thank you so much. If you guys can hear me, and I'm also having this session go on Twitter Spaces, so it's also on my Twitter Spaces if you're on Twitter. And thank you guys so much from Twitter Spaces. I mean, I'm really excited at the quality of conversations we're having because I love conversations. I feel the secret of any advancement is the power of the conversations they have. And it's the kind of conversations they have that keeps the balance. And also in conversations, we can learn a lot. But I would like to disagree with some speakers. Nigeria is not a hopeless case, maybe because I see from a vantage position before I speak about the power of resilience. I'm not undermining the fact that we've got problems, we've got challenges, but we got to love our country. So I'll give you an instance. I'm happy you raised the case of vaccination. When the UK banned Nigeria, I've never said this in public, but I was part of those that pushed for that ban to be upturned. I know the work I did with the government of Nigeria, and these are the things I do for my country. And I know the pressure I put on Katrina Land and Ben from the British High Commission here to let them see that they're making a terrible mistake and they have to change that ban once and for all. And it was not about the data. It was not about the figures. Because I see there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of hearsay. It was not about the reconciliation of the numbers. That was not the case. It was just a sweeping ban that we needed to fight back. And some people fight back. You just have to fight back. And that's why for a while, I took the position nudging the government to do what is right, to reciprocate, to be hardline. Because you see, when it comes to diplomatic relations,
Even if you've not done anything wrong, some countries will just want to undermine you. It is all about you taking the mess from them or deciding to fight back. And that's why we took a very tough national stance. And we pushed with the Nigerian British Association, which I do a lot with, the national debts, very corrupt politicians, fightings and uprising in the north and other parts of the country, threats of secession. You don't even know if the country will still stand. But one thing I've always known about this country, it has a power of reinventing itself. This is not a mistake, or this is not an excuse not to do the things that ought to be done. But it behoves on us to be able to do the needful to support our country. So there are a lot of things I have privileged information by the kind of job I do. And when I see a lot of people comment about those things in public space, I look and laugh and say, it is not as terrible as you think it is. Identification can be fixed. What Nigeria is just trying to do with NIN registration is like what India did with the Aadhaar registration system. This was a prerequisite, even not from us, but from the World Bank, to be able to capture data. And they've got a robust bank that they're still building on. India was a 10-year project. I know it was shambolic, them telling a lot of people to go out there and register, and there was a ruckus about NIN. Maybe that was the best way they could keep people out. It was terrible. It was poor planning. But it was on the route to getting a lot of data of Nigerians to be able to have some sort of like a social security background. And that's why you see now that it's been tied to the passport. So if you're just collecting a new Nigerian passport, you have to put your NIN number. I mean, I got a new passport last year. You have to put your NIN number. And it's the path. It took India about 10 years to be able to get it working. So these are some things that are happening. And that's why I say Nigeria is not a hopeless case. Nigeria is not a hopeless case because, and you have to be resilient, because this is still the economy that gives you about 35% return on investment, come what may. And that's why you see a lot of portfolio investments, albeit they might be going, they might make short-term investment, but they're still swarming into this market. Because this is the big apple. We can talk about Ghana all we want. I've done a lot in the Ghanaian market. We can talk about Ivory Coast. I do businesses across Africa. But I bet you won't get the return like you get in Nigeria. You will not get the capacity of return like you get in Nigeria, a big market with a lot of possibilities. I know there's red tape, but there's red tape every part in the world. Even in the UK, in the West you stay, we know how it works. But we need to be resilient, look inwards, and start to believe that things can be possible. Because I keep arguing, nobody's going to change Nigeria for you. You can go anywhere in the world, go to the West, get the knowledge, but nobody's going to change the country for you. Oh, you might say the politicians will shut us out, but there are still people that make the very best out of this mad situation. I tell the story to the high heavens, the story of somebody I call Auntie Funke, very dear to me. Auntie Funke had a major setback 10 years ago. She was called in on the Nitel deal with Fola Adeola and a couple of other people. The Nitel deal didn't fall through. Auntie Funke used to be a chief engineer with Verizon in America. And she came here and she set up Main One. It was crazy when she set up, because she had to raise over $200 million in a country where a lot of people didn't believe in patient capital. But these same Nigerians invested in her and they were patient with her. Recently, she closed the deal for $320 million. Equinox came to buy over Main One. And when you look at it, possibilities abound. She's still on the board of Main One, made some cool cash for herself, but it's the power of belief and resilience that kept her going. Was it easy? No, it was tough. I could say I was part of Main One because I was in charge of organizing all the Neds Unite, all the exposure and all of that. I knew about all the project when the first data center went out in Lekki. I knew the logistical nightmare she went through, but she kept on pushing because it is not easy anywhere in the world. At the start of every year, I take out time to read the words of Marcus Aurelius, Meditation. And Marcus Aurelius will always say that the obstacle lies the way. It is where you see obstacle that is the way. And I'd encourage a lot of people to read it. You know, I'm sort of a stoic in my head. And when I see pain and pressure, I also remember that diamond is made over pain and pressure. I'm not saying it's perfect down here, but I'm saying who's going to build it for us? We have to stay resilient in this market because this is the only market we have. And all the countries we keep arguing that we keep going to, they built their country when the country screwed up. Canada, you complain about high interest rates in Nigeria. Canada in the 70s had over 17% interest rate. Canada was about breaking into two countries. The Front La Libération de Québec, the Québécois, were fighting the other parts of Canada. They wanted to secede. But the Canadians fixed their country. Yes, there's an argument about leadership. In Canada, it was Elliott Trudeau. We might not be able to find that leader yet, but we keep pushing. Because the journey, it's not always easy. Trust me, it's not always easy. It's a hard-won fight. But what would you rather do? You can take the high road or you can fight. But if you take the high road, you'll know that, see, there are a lot of possibilities you can build in this country, but every nation has its own problem. The UK has got energy crisis. They've got Bojo. They've got other crises going on. America is not immune. They've got problems. There are problems everywhere in the world. But what are we going to do, really? Are we going to leave it alone and just walk away? We have to make it work. And that's why it's a clarion call today. How do we make it work? Through the capacity of resilience. We just have to stick it out. People created something out of nothing. In this same country, where a lot of people never believed in possibility, the likes of Shenwo Shewa created Naira Land. The likes of Adewale Yusuf created Tech Point. I'll tell you about Wale because I know Wale, because I know when he started Tech Point. Wale came to Lagos because his parents couldn't send him to school. When Wale came, Wale used to be a security man and slept under the bridge in Lagos. And that was Wale's lot. Wale picked up a camera. He was being laughed at the company he was worked for, but he was passionate about photography, so he kept on pushing. But he was passionate about tech too. So he started writing tech stories and he would go out and take the photographs. A lot of people would laugh at Wale, but we kept on pushing. I was part of that story because I was the MC of the first Tech Point build. When nobody gave Wale a chance, we pushed. Before you know it, help came. And you see, if you're resilient enough, help will always come. Help will always come. He got the first investment. Then the rest is history. Today, Tech Point stands on its own. It pays its bills. Wale has since moved on to other things. Alt School, where he teaches other people how to code. And he set up Talent QR, where he can make talents for the next generation. Wale could have given up and looked for the next visa out of the country when he was sleeping under the bridge in Lagos. But you know, Wale said, I stay here or I go home. And he made it work. And it's not always easy. And that's why another mindset we need to have is something that has helped me all my life. Something that helped me when a lot of people never gave me a chance. Something that helped me when people said, this is the end of your career because I left my last radio station and nobody could bet on me. Something that helped me when I joined Arise and a lot of people laughed at me and said, oh, if it was channels I joined, they would have said I joined a TV station. But the words of Rumi kept me. Rumi said something, I'll tell you. Rumi said, live life like everything is rigged in your favor. In being resilient, you just have to live life like everything is rigged in your favor. I have setbacks. Nigeria has setbacks. But once you start to have the mindset like everything is rigged in your favor, things will happen. Because life is 100% spiritual. You never have the capacity in the first place. You build on it. No nation ever has the capacity in the first place. They build on it. No nation became great overnight. They built on it, albeit with nothing. I remember how the British people, I read it somewhere, used to laugh at the Japanese in the 60s when the Japanese started to make cars. The Japanese would try to imitate a British name and they would spell it wrongly. The first set of Japanese cars were really, really appalling, very appalling. I remember when the Japanese launched the Datsun and they put it in the market, the British market, it was smoking everywhere. The engine wasn't good. They laughed at them. I remember when the Japanese launched Toyota and they put it on the highway in America, the cars were so small. The Toyopets then, it was a massive failure. But guess what? As in the 70s, the Japanese, you can count how many Japanese cars. But today, I bet you for every 3 cars you see on British roads, at least one is going to be a Japanese car. Nobody ever gave the Japanese a chance, but they kept on living life like everything was rigged in their favor. And in living life like everything is rigged in your favor, it depends on your understanding of life. Because you see, nobody will ever give you a chance. I have never been given a chance at all. I always come in at the underdog. A lot of people look at my face and say, oh, what does he know? He looks like a 6-year-old. But you see, it is when you get into the room and you put in a fight, you can really know how great you are. And that's the possibility we must all give ourselves in business. It is not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect. Don't get me wrong. I confess to you, Nigeria can be shitty sometimes. It's happened to me many times. I've had to walk away from deals because of corruption. And I say, oh, dear, the Nigerian factor. But what will I rather do? Will I take the high road or will I stay? Another thing you have to understand in building resilience in this market that looks almost insurmountable. And trust me, you have enough negative things to say about this country. You wouldn't run out of things to say. But I tell you, another thing you should remember is that, see, you can cry because the sun has left your life. But please be careful the way you cry, because your tears can prevent you from seeing the stars. So we can cry that it's all terrible out here, but be careful the way you cry, because it can prevent you from seeing those little possibilities. Possibilities like affects that created an exchange for cereals and crops. They had challenges, but they're still building. Possibilities like my very good friend saw when everybody said Nigeria should not be given a chance. But he left his tutorship job in Bristol and he came back to Nigeria to build Town Talk. It was hard when he started, but today, Town Talk is one of the biggest data mining and providing companies. They launched a security app called Area, where they give monthly reports on security situations in the country. Possibilities that he could have said back and say nothing works in Nigeria. And for good measure, in the same Nigeria where nothing works, they just raised over 340,000 US. Possibilities abound. We can cry all we want and say things don't work. But as of today, I know a boy that once slept under the bridge in Lagos that has raised 10 million US to invest in this same economy. He once slept in the bridge of Lagos. And I'm not saying he slept in the bridge of Lagos in the year 2000. As at year 2013, he was sleeping in the bridge of Lagos. But this same Nigeria afforded him the opportunity. And that's why I make a strong case for resilience. We're not there, we've got challenges, it's imperfect. Sometimes I scream, I squeal at politicians because I hope they could get it. Some of them probably will never get it. And I don't blame them for never getting it. But the truth has to be said, as long as we get it and we have the power of resilience, maybe someday we could challenge them. Because like the words of Mahatma Gandhi, I can't change the world. I did an interview recently, it's trending everywhere. People are calling me Messiah. And I tell them, I'm not your Messiah. I can't change anything. I cannot change Nigeria. But the best I can do is Maybe I could challenge it. And that's all I want to do. Maybe I could challenge it. Maybe I could make you see anew. Maybe I could challenge you with this speech and probably get you to think again. But you know, sometimes we look at the dream too big because we want to change Nigeria. Probably, maybe you don't really need to change Nigeria. Maybe you just need to challenge it in its own little space. Because the same Britain you're running to was challenged by a certain man called William Beveridge, that after the Second World War, when Britain lied in ruins, wrote a treatise on a book called The Five Giants. And he argued strongly that these five giants, if the problem of health, sanitation, squalor, and education is not fixed, Britain's Commonwealth will not last. And what led them to setting up the NHS was because of that paper by William Beveridge. Or just maybe a certain Winston Churchill challenged the British Empire when he said, we will not be afraid. When he said, we will not cower to Hitler. When he said, we will not give the crocodile meat, hope it will hit us last. Maybe you could challenge, just like Winston Churchill challenged Britain in the midst of the Blitz in London in the 40s. London was bombed, it was decimated. But Winston Churchill said, this is our finest hour. If the British Commonwealth can live 1,000 years, we would say of Britain that this is our finest hour. And when he said those words, trust me, the Luftwaffes of the Germans were still bombing Britain. When he said those words, 2-3 years after, Winston Churchill didn't win re-election because poverty was so much and British people couldn't afford meats. In fact, it was said that when they played the tennis tournament in Britain, some British players had to beg Americans to bring meat for them. But Churchill kept on challenging. Or probably when Britain was down all that and they had to take loans from the IMF in the 70s, a certain Margaret Thatcher did challenge a generation. And we know her to be the Iron Lady. Probably like Benazir Bhutto challenged the people of Pakistan. Probably like a certain man that his father came to school in America from Kenya. He had nothing. Met another American girl. They had a child called Barack Hussein Obama. Like Obama challenged his generation. And he told us, yes, we can. It wasn't everything that Barack Obama promised that we saw in a lifetime, but he challenged us. So in having resilience, maybe this is just the time to challenge our generation and not use the word change, because it's a whole other thing to do, to change. Change of heart comes slowly. Maybe the new challenge is we should challenge ourselves for resilience, and we could believe a little bit more. But I tell you what, believe is not blind. It's not a blind trust. It's not blind hope. When you start to believe, last mile officials will still frustrate you. Police brutality will still happen. All the bad things that make people go out to protest during NSAS will still happen. It will not be a one-size-fits-all. It will not be a walk in the park. It will not be a fun day. You will still hear that corrupt politicians will still be corrupted and still loot. Challenging, and we're resilient. Maybe just one day, my child will see a change happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rufai. Thank you. I think for me, what resonated, the question that resonated when you were speaking was, are we able to challenge systems? Can we challenge the deficits? Can we challenge the negative image? Can we challenge the lies we tell ourselves, the lies our leaders tell us? Can we challenge these things? And this is a question for me. It's a question for everyone still here on the platform. So if you have stayed this long at this time, I want to really appreciate you. I want to appreciate the time that you put in. Again, as usual, I would give an opportunity for questions. If you have any questions or reaction, there is a reaction coming in from Facebook, but I'll allow people here to ask their questions or give their reaction? Anyone wants to? Okay, thank you. I see everyone reacting in the comment section. Thank you for your reaction. Does anyone have anything to add, any contribution to add? All right, thank you so much. I want to say thank you so much to everyone. I don't intend to keep you for a longer time. Someone is asking when is the next session. We do have your contacts. We would let you know. I don't just want this to be an opportunity for us to just talk. I want us to also be able to identify actionable steps to take to begin to probably solve these problems, change this narrative, to begin to build this Nigeria that we're talking about. So we would let you know, Eric, when the next section is. Thank you so much for your time. Now, one of the things as I wrap up.
Yes, so I'd like to say a big thank you to you for that, but I'm sorry, I humbly disagree. And this is why I disagree. If you look at the way nations evolve, it is a critical gathering and a critical mass of people that challenge themselves individually that starts to make a case for the nation to challenge itself at large. Why are we not there yet? It's because we have not gathered that critical mass of people challenging in different spheres. It's because a lot of people are getting too tired of the situation and we're taking the easy way out. I'll give you an instance. In Canada today, a bulk of Nigeria's top elite professional force have all gone. And they exude excellence. They're good at what they do. And why is that the case? Probably. They might have different reasons. But is that always the solution? No. It is in you coming back and saying, probably even the skills I gather from there, I'll use it to make it work. When you look at the formula of other nations, that's what they did. They probably went to the West to get skills. The Chinese did it. The Japanese did it. Other nations that are thriving now did it. They went to the West, they got skills, and they came back and they evolved. That's all they did. So you going out there should be with the mindset of coming back to challenge the status quo in your own way. It might not necessarily be on the streets. It might be an invention. It might be making something work. There are lots of people that have challenged that level of invention. I hope you know today that the technological banking system in Nigeria is more advanced than that in some places in America. So if you think everything is bad in Nigeria, it is more advanced than in some places in America because people like Flutterwave, and even before then, people like Remy started creating bank apps, started creating applications used in banking. And this was even before tech became the norm. And that's why I see the digitization of the Nigerian banking space one of the most advanced cross-continent. So these are people that challenge the status quo. Just like investment challenged the telecom space. It was moribund Nitel only for so many years until telecoms communications came in and challenged the telecom space. And we saw how that's evolved. Probably if it was still only Nitel that existed, I'll not be able to get on a Zoom call like this. But today we have alternatives. So sectoral challenges like that, when people start to make that dent, there is no how. Once the idea has come for you to challenge the status quo in your area of expertise, it will move. As at 1993, Nigeria had less media houses. But after 1993, now we have a lot of media houses that are challenging the status quo in the media space. It is gradual. If you're to make a comparative analysis with the West, some economies are still boxed up. But because of liberalism, we found our way through in this country. So it is people doing pockets of things here and there that are opening new possibilities, just like Nollywood. Do you know how much the South African government pays people to come and shoot films in South Africa? Do you know how much? Just to be able to grow the South African film industry. But out of nothing, Nollywood emerged. No support, nothing. And they keep pushing the envelope. The so-called films, a lot of people called crap back in the days, are the films that a lot of people now watch on boat cruises, and they say Nigerian movies. And over time, they level things out. Today, Nigerian movie industry is respected. So across board, there are people doing great things. I think we should start by giving ourselves accolades. Like I said before, if you are crying so much because you've lost the sun, you'll not be able to see the stars that are twinkling and doing great things. My submission.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Chinonso. I hope that that explanation helped. Now I have a couple of people who want to speak. I have Peter Dr. Imosi. I hope I got the pronunciation right. My apologies if I didn't. Please, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rufai, for your beautiful presentation. So I was going to ask, when it comes to resilience and challenging the system, how do you challenge a system wherein the educational system is not really top-notch? So when you look at the curriculum in Nigeria, we are really back when it comes to current development around the world. So if your citizens are not well equipped and trained in the right way, how then do they have the capability to challenge that same system wherein the required tools for them to challenge that system is not well bequeathed to them as a people? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love this because this is my life. This is my life. This area is my life. About 5 years ago, me and one of my co-founders, Yomi Alarakwe, we started something called EduPair. EduPair was an education consult, still exists till date, still deployed, but I don't run it directly any longer. And what did we do? We saw a gap in the education system. So what did we do? We challenged the status quo. We met every private school possible that we can meet. Green Spring with some of our clients and the likes. And we deployed coding training at a cost. And it was transformational. We were teaching primary school students MIT App Inventor, Scratch and coding, programming language. They were making apps. On the day we had the final presentation, their parents were crying. In fact, Green Spring was amazed at the level. And we have deployed across board. I don't like to toot my horn, but personally, I deployed that training by paying for it with another group of people to indigent communities. There are a lot of people challenging the status quo. Teach for Nigeria. I met her once. I once spoke at an education summit where you had 6,000 teachers at Covenant Christian Center in Igomu. And I met Teach for Nigeria, which is challenging the status quo by ensuring that professionals can get a chance to teach. Then another one, 1 million teachers. I was part of it. I am still part of it. A couple of years ago, Akim Subar and I met in 2012. And we became very passionate about education. Then Akim pulled me and said, Rufai, I want you to come see somebody. Then he put me into a meeting with the governor of Osun State. It was Rauf Aregbesola then. And when we got to the meeting, we sold this idea about a spelling bee competition. They bought into it. We started, but we couldn't finish. Guess what happened? Akim came back from Canada many years down the line. We were ruminating in a hotel room somewhere in Ikeja. I'll never forget that day. And we stumbled on the idea of why don't we change the focus and train the teachers? So we set up 1 million teachers. And we started training teachers. We recently, with the Emir of Kano, former Emir of Kano, which is our patron, Sanusi, we raised over $4 million where we are using to impact teachers with different projects. There are a lot of teachers that are onboarded on the 1 million teacher platform. We signed a deal with the government of Rwanda. We're partners with UNICEF now. We opened up an office recently in Cape Town. We're all over Africa. We're challenging the status quo 1 million teachers. You can check it up and see the things we've done. It's online there. What am I saying invariably? You can start to challenge the curriculum. Take, for instance, there's something I did recently. I challenged the curriculum with University of Sussex by introducing them to the Nigerian University Commission. And you can see that there'll be some upgrade in the curriculum, even as regards media studies. We will not have it all from the start, but those pockets of challenging will push it out there. Just like, what's his name? Wally from TechPoint. Old school, a coding school, challenging the status quo with it. So increasingly we're doing that. Because you see, you can never stop an idea whose time has come. With no government, tech companies, tech like that, you must have broadband, you must have all of that. We don't have all of that. But at the same time, we're building infrastructure. Just like Funke Okweke challenging with undersea cable and all of that. Prior to the 2000s, until Funke Okweke came, we had no undersea cable. Don't get me wrong. I know it cost a lot of money to build this infrastructure, which all of this will rest on.
Hello, thank you so much, Chiamaka. Thank you, Rufai, for this very great insight into the Nigerian problem and the solution to the Nigerian problem. So I think you've said it all, and there is nothing left to be said, just to say that people should go and get their PVC, right? Because when we talk about individual input into the situation of Nigeria and correcting the problems and the errors already existing in Nigeria, I think the individual input is not enough in itself, because without the enabling environment, no matter how much you put in, it will take it up. The environment will swallow it up. I remember some friends who decided to go back to Nigeria and form something great. But then right from the airport, they started experiencing so much setbacks. They started experiencing so much, obstructions and all. Even the things they imported into Nigeria to help the system, to help to raise people, they had to pay from their nose in order to release those things from the wharf. So it starts from the borders. It starts from either the sea or the flights, or, and then coming into Nigeria itself, there is so much corruption there that an individual cannot easily survive without knowing someone else. Now, this is the aspect of, who do you know? You can't plant something in Nigeria and it yields fruit without you knowing someone who will be working things out for you, from the top. It did happen to a friend of mine, and he ended up losing almost everything. He had to return back here in the UK because he was losing everything. He said, no, I can't plant in Nigeria. And I was reading a story of the owner, the big owner of Gatwick Airport, how he came to Nigeria. I think Adebayo Ogunlesi, how he came to Nigeria to help with the airports in Nigeria, but it didn't work for him. So he had to come back to the UK and purchased, the Gatwick Airport. I'm not sure if that story is entirely correct, but we need individual inputs. At the same time, we need an enabling environment to make this individual input. If there is no enabling environment, then, these things wouldn't work. I was in an interview and someone said regarding the Buhari's interview earlier on this year, when he said that after studies, you go back, you don't expect the government to give you a job. And the person was like, Father, don't you think this person, Buhari, was encouraging Nigerians into entrepreneurship? And I said, Nigerians are the highest entrepreneurs you can find in Africa. He said, how? I said, go to Alaba market, go to Onitsha market, go to Ariare market in Aba, go to Enugu. They are all there, you know, and they are doing their best. But are there enabling environments? Is that the only place they can do well? Because there are many of them there. So do you want to say something to this regard so that I don't talk too much? Thank you. But I want to tell you, Rufai, that I enjoy watching you on Arise TV and I enjoy listening to you, honestly.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. I mean, I feel very honored and humbled, Father, you know, to have you here. I feel very humbled. So you made very valid points about the factors and things around problems. Yeah, there are problems everywhere. And I can also tell you that that's the way it is. So I'll tell you a little story. The first time I got into New York, my first time in New York, got out of JFK, I was shocked. Very dirty looking, terrible infrastructure. Third-class infrastructure. I can tell you that for free. The sofas in JFK were torn. You could go check. You could go check. Old sofas, even the cafeteria, the canteen, dirty. Got out. I was going to my hotel room in Manhattan, and I called an Uber. And the Pakistani guy, I'll never forget. No, the first guy called an Uber for me and told me, don't worry, it's gonna take you $70 to Manhattan. And the guy said, just give me $20 because I helped you to call him. And I said, oh yeah, great, have the money. And then I get into the car and the Pakistani guy says, I'll put on the meter for you. And I ended up paying $220. You know, let me say this in Yoruba Palace, in New York. Honestly, I was cheated, broad daylight in New York. I got into Manhattan. I saw how dirty it was. Had food poisoning twice in Manhattan. And I kept on looking at myself and saying, despite how dirty and terrible New York looked, it was crazy. I'll tell you another story. I was in Manhattan. I was staying on Forsyth Street in Manhattan, just a couple of blocks away from the Tribeca. There was this Italian restaurant I used to go eat called the Pasenna. It's on Mulberry Street. I was coming out of Mulberry Street one night. I was going to eat the only thing I love to eat when I was in New York, my chicken cacciatore. And I was coming out and two gangs were shooting. I had to duck and run into somebody's shop. There was a free-for-all gunfight on the streets. Despite all of that, you've got about 60 trillion in cash slushing around the world. 20 trillion passes through that dirty, shabby looking, street gang fighting New York. 20 trillion out of the 60 trillion of capital spread in the world. 20 trillion passes through it. In the hotel in New York, it is a common feature to ask, does the hotel room have a bed bug? It's right for the people, which is important. And I'll never, ever downplay that. And I stand for that every time. And I keep arguing that if only these guys get it, it will move forward. But it is never an indication that all hope is lost. Because there are people too that take money into New York and they lose money in business and they get frustrated by corruption, by red tape. Hope you know that in New York, if you're not in the mafia, you can't do the garbage collection business. Hope you know it is zoned directly to the mafia. You get? Hope you know it is zoned directly to the mafia. Hope you know there are cascading systems of corruption. Hope you know that Donald Trump, when he built his hotel, Donald Trump had one of the most ruthless lawyers called Michael Cohen that argued a 40-year tax break for Donald Trump in New York. Corruption is everywhere. But despite that, 20 trillion still passes through down New York. It's still called the Big Apple. Nowhere is perfect. The Nigerian leaders must do more. But we can say it's a hopeless case. For every people that are losing money in Nigeria, I can give you examples of 101 people that have made money. I can give you examples of people that came in. So I'll give you an instance. I know a friend that runs Town Talk. He's my very dear friend. My closest friend, my buddy. Went to Cambridge, went to Oxford. I'm leaving the West. I'm coming back to Nigeria to build something. Last election, they were looking for who to do data analysis. Prior to this time, they used to bring in a company run by David Axelrod. Axelrod was the guy that did Obama's campaign. He was the one the APC used in 2015 to do all the analysis, data analysis. But this guy came into Nigeria and he said he could do it. He did it for the Osho elections, and the opportunity came. He crunched data for the Atiku Abubakar campaign, and he was paid for it. So one thing I've come to see in Nigeria is that if you don't try, you'll never know. I'm not saying it's perfect, but if you don't try, you'll never know. Somebody was telling me the other day about how the property market in Maiduguri is mad. That people literally pay rent in US dollars because aid agencies have to stay in there and all of that. So what we hear is chitty chitty bang bang in Maiduguri. Somebody videoed nightclubs in Maiduguri. Expatriates rocking every night. I saw the video, I was like, is this Maiduguri? So for every one story, I mean, I've worked in the media for the better part of my life. I know about narrative. But please, it might not work for your friend. He might come back, it might work. Narrative might shift. The thing is, it is all about you and what you can do for yourself. I'm not saying it's perfect. Don't get me wrong. Thank you. I think we have I don't know. Chiamaka, if you take over, I don't know.
That's absolutely fine. I think at this point, I'm just going to take quick reactions from people, and then I give my closing remarks and we wrap up. Thank you so much for also reacting to the question that Father asked. This is a reaction from Badmus Tafik. He says, Mr. Rufai, no way you go lie. Every minute in Illinois, there is a gunshot, but we live here like it's normal. I bet if it were Nigeria, Nigerians will enter media, they show the world. Until we stop downplaying Nigeria, nothing is going to work for us in Nigeria. Thank you, Badmus, for your reaction. Someone else mentioned, this is a reaction still from Badmus. He says, Mr. Rufai, wherever you mount spin, it's always worth to wake Nigerians up, but one thing is always missing, separating Nigeria and Nigerians. Nothing is wrong with Nigeria, but Nigerians. Please kindly use your platform to educate Nigerians that the problem ain't Nigeria, but Nigerians. Thanks, challenge. And I hope our wicked leaders wanting to occupy 2023 know still this concept. Thank you. Thank you so much, Badmus, for your active participation and for everybody who's contributed and listened up until this point. I do appreciate so much your time. For me, my Nigerian dream, I really can't explain it, but one thing that rings through my head is our Nigerian motto. When you look at our coat of arms, it says it's unity, faith, peace, and progress. And truthfully, I think that this is really the Nigerian dream that we want to build, a system. I don't know if it's an utopia to demand that equality, but people want a nation where there is unity. People want a nation where they believe or they have faith in the policy, they have faith in the government. People want to live in peace, and people want a progressive society. But then again, we can't leave that responsibility alone for the government. We can't leave that responsibility alone for people who occupy positions. It is also our responsibility. I hope today there are things that you can ruminate on. There are questions that you can ask yourself. And I know that we have entrepreneurs here as well. How can you begin to think about how to profile solutions for some of the problems that we identified today? How can we also establish partnerships? Because we can't go alone. We need people to go with us. We need to build communities. And to build these communities as well, we need conversations like this. So I do appreciate so much that you stuck around this long to listen to our conversation. For those people who are listening from Facebook and other platforms, thank you so much for sticking around this long. I hope this inspires you. I hope this motivates you to do something. It doesn't matter what part of the world that you are Nigerian. Home is still home. We can't negate the challenges. We can't say it's not our business, it's not our problem just because we're comfortable in the interim. At the end of the day, I think posterity would question us. They will ask us questions. What did we do? What did we do? You know, did we stay aloof? Or did we actually do something? So I hope that this spurs you to think in your own little way, how can I contribute? Now, we mentioned the elections as well. I know it's something that is so arduous a process, but again, instead of going to Twitter and Facebook or whatever platform, then he raised some very interesting, valid, thought-provoking questions for you and me, and I hope that inspires you. And thank you, Rufai, for your own contribution, the questions that you answered as well. You spoke to us about the Nigerian factor. I don't think that's shown through as much. I think you focused on the power of resilience, but I maybe next time is something that we're able to elaborate on a lot more. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you to you and for everybody who contributed, who reacted to some of the things that the speaker said, who gave their own contributions as well. I don't take it for granted. Thank you. Hopefully till next time, we do have the contacts. We'll reach out to you as well when we are planning another session or something, some projects as well, based off from the conversation that we had today. I hope that we are able to have the same sort of energy, the same sort of spirit when we call on you again. Until next time, my humble self is Chiamaka Kwazu. I hope to see you in future events. Let us challenge this narrative. Let us challenge the lies, challenge the deficits, challenge the negative press, negative